Hello. We are now in week 2 for 202 online, and I hope you've gotten a little comfortable with Foxtail and kind of navigated discussion forum, the grammar check, the Turnitin option. And so I will be seeing your rough drafts coming in soon, and I will be giving you feedback. So a couple things to keep in mind. One, when you view my feedback, like for a rough draft or a final draft, it can only be viewed on a computer. It can't be on a smart device like your phone or a tablet. A lot of students get frustrated because they see that I've given them feedback and they open it up and nothing's there. So just keep that in mind. And I'll discuss a little bit more on the weekly announcement that I send out. So audience analysis, going into, covering kind of the stuff that I would discuss in a face-to-face class along with alongside the PowerPoint for week 2. So audience analysis, I've been getting a lot of questions about it. It's really, awkward kind of. Sometimes you don't really get why we're doing it or what's supposed to be included, how many questions are you supposed to answer, that kind of thing. So if you haven't taken 201, you haven't done an audience analysis yet. So it's just a paragraph, one paragraph that kind of lets me know who you are trying to connect with. So if you go to the slide and who's your audience, like who are you talking to? So for the first writing assignment, if you're creating this memory with a message, who are you creating the message for? Like sometimes we create these beautiful pieces, but what's the point of it, right? Who are you trying to connect with so that you kind of keep your audience in mind so that your writing is reflecting your message towards your audience rather than towards me. So the audience analysis lets me know who you're talking to so I can understand who you're connecting with, right? You're not writing for me, you're writing to your audience, and then I can kind of evaluate your writing with the group, the person, the people that you are trying to connect to. So let me know who that is, right? Why do they need to hear this? Like, why do you find this information important to connect with your audience? How will they benefit from this information? Are you hoping, maybe that they won't get rid of that table that you are dying to keep, that desk that your great grandmother gave you? Are you wanting, a change to happen, maybe to get rid of some stuff or organize? And then what do I need to know? There's certain words, phrases, jargon that you speak between your audience and you that I might not understand, right? Last week I kind of talked about like the whole Marcom thing, right? My husband says Marcom all the time and I'm like, who's Marcom, right? I'm not in marketing and communications. So let me know that is the information, right? That's what that means. So you can keep talking to your audience the way you would normally talk to your audience, and I now have the understanding. So I hope that kind of covers the audience analysis. Again, just so that you kind of know it's, nothing super complex, but it's important so that you know who you're connecting with, and then I can kind of help you ask questions and kind of guide your writing to tailor it to your audience. That's the whole point of the audience analysis. Where does it go? In your paper when you submit it, right? The audience analysis goes, and it's considered an appendix, so it would belong after the references page. So keep that in mind. Okay, so let's get into chapter 10, talking about thesis statements. So constructing your thesis statement, this might be very new for a lot of you. A lot of people think, oh, a thesis statement is just like one phrase, like working out is really important. Yes, working out is really important, but it's, again, you're tailoring it, you're honing in to connect to your audience, and you're actually making a claim. So when you're reading through chapter 10, you'll see that there's that statement and claim that you're making, which includes a why component. So you're kind of asking yourself this question, and you're creating a question that you eventually turn into an answer, which kind of creates a claim and a why piece, and then you have the thesis statement. So I know it sounds easier than it is. So we're going to continue to practice, and I encourage you to do the exercises that are in chapter 10 to kind of just practice creating a thesis statement that's more than a statement. It's a thesis statement, right? It has a claim, it has a why. So, for example, if I'm going back to my whole like exercise is important, well, why is exercise important, right? Why is it important to me? Why is it important to my audience, right? Who's my audience? Again, you're constantly thinking about who are you trying to connect to? Because what you think is important is great, but does your audience think it's important? And if they don't, do they need to, right? So I have a friend who's doing, Couch to 5K. I've had lots of students write about it and kind of talk about the importance of it, which, I haven't done Couch to 5K, and maybe they want to encourage, another friend to join Couch to 5K, which is kind of like a running app to get you to exercise. But why is that important, right? Couch to 5K is a great app. Awesome. Why is it a great app? Right? If I've used it, my why is going to be different than my neighbor's why, than my student's why, than, my mother-in-law's why. Everyone has a different why, which is important because it's your writing. It reflects you and your perspective. And then you eventually use evidence to back up your claim. So why is, exercise important? Well, it's important because especially during the work-life balance, you kind of feel like, well, I think maybe it's important to get exercise because it helps maintain a work-life balance. Oh, so then you're thinking like, does exercise, what is exercise? Like, does exercise create a better work-life balance? That's a good question. So then you're wondering, does it? I don't know. I think it does, but I need to go find some evidence to support that and kind of find out what I'm doing, right? So then you go and look for that information, right? Researching, going beyond Google and finding credible sources that kind of navigate that question. Not to find the answer you're looking for. Sometimes we kind of do that. But also just to reveal a thesis statement. Because as you investigate your question, you will create a thesis statement, a why, the claim, right? Piece. So it's really important. So maybe as I'm figuring out, yes, wow, okay, so yes, exercise creates a better work-life balance, but what kind of exercise and what kind of work-life balance, right? When you can answer those questions, it all automatically creates a more refined thesis statement, like, over the last, 5 years, I've found that running, 3 times a week has created a, you don't want to say like work-life balance because you're like, what does it create? It creates moments in time for me to de-stress, relax and refocus my energy for the rest of the day. There's so many different ways you can kind of narrow your thesis. You could even talk about like how, running in the morning creates a better focus so that you can, tackle your tasks at hand, or that you don't even have to think about exercise, for the rest of the day because you've already done it before you even like start your work day. There's so many different ways that you can navigate a thesis statement off a question that it's kind of cool that you can ask, create a question and then go into your research and figure out, where is this leading me to? And a lot of times we kind of already have like a predisposed thesis in mind, but allowing yourself the freedom to investigate and see what information, is revealed to you can often change your thesis statement and also give you one that you have more passion and inspiration to create. So that's what I have to say about thesis statement. Couple pieces that, I take from chapter 10. A lot of times we worry that, we create too vague of a thesis statement and our essay can't cover it, all the pieces, right? We like in the chapter 10 it talks about like that umbrella, right? So in your umbrella, which is your thesis statement, do your body paragraphs all connect back to this thesis statement and adequately, support your claim? Because if it's too big, then you need more paragraphs, which means maybe it's too big for the length of the paper. Or if it's too small and you don't have, you kind of answer it in like one question, well, then maybe you need to make it a little bit bigger to broaden your umbrella. So keeping that in mind, I really like that visual that Dr. Harrop gives about the umbrella and being able to kind of really pick, each one of your topic sentences and make sure, are your body paragraphs, are these topic sentences directly reflecting my thesis statement? Very nice and clear, visual. And then kind of like what I talked about earlier, that as you were developing, as you are going into your research, constantly revising that thesis statement, because you have to leave your mind open to other options. I know sometimes people just like go down and start writing and then go find research to kind of fit in with what they've written. I really recommend that you develop a question for your thesis statement and go and investigate first and see what is revealed to you. And a lot of times if you can give yourself room to do that and time to do that, then you can develop a thesis statement and start figuring out, how you're going to support it. But you've already done the research and see where the pieces fit, rather than create information and then go figure out how you're going to find, research to fit in your pieces. So keep that in mind for chapter 10 for thesis statement. Chapter 11 talks about introductions, which I really enjoy. I think there's so many great suggestions on how to create an introduction, how to hook your reader, because a lot of times students just, like to ask a question and to kind of like probe your audience. And those are great too, but what is something like, again, thinking about your audience, who's your audience and how do you grab their attention? How do you, what do they like? What do they not like? What fascinates them? What are their interests? Use that to better your writing. Because again, you're not writing to me, you're writing to your audience. So knowing that your story or your question or your statement is going to make them, what are they saying? I'm intrigued, I'm interested, rather than caring about if I'm intrigued or interested. I just want to see those connections we made. That's all I'm looking for, is how are you effectively, following the parameters that we're talking about of writing, but also how are you looping your audience in, where I can clearly see you are making rhetorical choices based on your audience. That's what I'm looking for. So in chapter 11, they give great ideas, a related story, a provocative question, a hypothetical scenario, surprising facts, an engaging quote, a striking statement, background information, the who, what, where, when, and why of a paper's focus, a combination of the things. I definitely see a lot of people with relatable stories, hypothetical scenarios, painting like a beautiful picture. I could see, especially for writing assignment 1, creating this beautiful visual so that the reader, the audience member can kind of really connect with the item that you're discussing or the background of it. I see, as it's a very narrative piece, painting visuals will be really effective as an option. So just keeping in mind that there's more than one way to engage your audience, and really thinking about what would they enjoy the most. Like, it's great that you enjoy it too, but also how, your goal is to engage your reader, your audience. So thinking about them and what's the best way to pull them in. It's really great. Okay, let me move this. So that's chapter 11. I've already talked about this, but I'm just going to reiterate it because I feel it's so important. Reading to write, which I already said, a lot of times people write and then they kind of figure out how their information, like how they can find credible sources to back them up. And I think, yes, that does work. at times, but giving yourself, you want to elevate your writing, right? We're looking for ways to be more engaging, to be more clear, to be more concise, to be more effective. And I know that giving yourself the room to grow and see what's out there before you start writing is really important. So yes, I think a lot of times when you first get, a prompt or a topic, that you free write. You just like go for it, get your ideas flowing, make your mind map, your umbrella, free write, whatever it is that you need to do to get those ideas out, and then kind of see what questions can you pull from there. Okay, I've got some questions now. Go to the research, right? Go start investigating. Figure out what people are saying out there and see how that changes your question, right? Because maybe you have 2 questions, maybe you have 3 questions, and now you can narrow it down to 1. Because a lot of times I've had students say, I can't find evidence to back me up. I'm like, yeah, well, maybe you need to change what you're saying, right? So using research, credible sources, your audience, your question, and kind of navigating all of that to develop a refined thesis statement makes it a lot easier to figure out what evidence you're going to use to back up your claim, because you've already done a lot of the work, right? It's like putting the puzzle pieces together. You go and find it all and then realize, oh, I'm honing in on this idea, and now I've already got these pieces ready to plug in, and you can clearly see how you're going to make those connections to your thesis statement. So I'm really big on inquiry-based research. So yes, give yourself time and freedom to wander the internet and see what credible sources are out there, and also thinking about, are these credible sources relatable to my audience? Because you might be engaged in them too and find them fascinating. Will your audience member find them fascinating? Because ultimately that's who you're talking to, right? So keeping that in mind, always keeping that audience right here, thinking like, kind of like, would you like this? Do you think this is interesting, right? It's not just about you, but it's about your audience. So keeping that in mind. So that's what reading to write is all about. So, examples, right? What are theories of dog training, right? If I wanted to talk about dog training, we bought a dog. We adopted a dog a couple years ago, and I'd never owned a dog, and I didn't know how to handle a dog or how to teach them, train them. And so a lot of times I kind of had to figure out, like, what do I need to investigate, right? What are the theories? That's like, because I was so, I lacked a lot of knowledge. So I had to have a very basic question, like, what are the theories of dog training? And then as I began reading more and more, I was able to kind of evaluate that, oh, wow, there's all these different theories, and I can kind of decide, yeah, what's the difference between, shock collars and dog aggression or submission? Like, they have all these different personalities, and how do these training styles affect their personalities? Cesar Millan, how does he differ from like Ian Dunbar? Why does one use clicker and the other one doesn't? What's the difference between the two? And that wouldn't be my thesis statement. That's my inquiry-based research, right? And my thesis statement would actually be to create an answer to the question, right? With a why piece to it. iPhones. Well, I used to live in South Korea, and I missed the iPhone wave. And when I came back in 2009, the iPhones were like the only thing you could get. And I still had like a really skinny, like sidekick or slider or something like that. And I remember going to, Verizon and asking them, like, why do I need an iPhone? Like, do I need an iPhone? What are my other options? And they're like, oh, you can have this smartphone. I remember that's like, you can have this smartphone, or, just this little flip phone. It's like, well, why do I need a smartphone? And why are there so many smartphone options and just this one flip phone option? I didn't really get it. And so I had to do a lot of research to figure out, when I didn't even really know what a smartphone was. It's kind of weird because I missed the wave. And then, just figuring all of that out and deciding, choosing to get an iPhone versus not getting one. And then you'd ask over the years, realizing that the emotional attachments that we create, right? Because we're going to be experiencing that with my oldest daughter. She's in 5th grade and she's going to want a cell phone in middle school, and navigating that, going straight to research, not just like, what do I think? Yes, I have an opinion, but also what do I see out there, right? I just don't solely rely on my other people that are credible and researched and that have done the research and studies. What are they saying, and how do I feel about that? And how would I even use that to present to my daughter? Like, what kind of research would I present that relates to her, not just me, but to her, right? That's when you're starting to think about your audience, the writer, and the research. So keeping those things in mind. Again, I talked about this last week, but give yourself permission to write badly. And I know that's a weird phrase, but it just means like, don't get hung up. Oh gosh, sorry, I'm gonna have to pause for a minute. Okay, sorry, I had cell phone things popping up, notifications. Okay, so giving yourself freedom to write badly, right? I know it sounds silly, but it's important because a lot of times people get hung up on a sentence, like the structure of the sentence, the perfection of the sentence, creating a thesis first, right? The perfect thesis first. And really, it doesn't matter initially. You just need to get the information down, right? And you can go back and evaluate, doing that whole like generating and judging piece. You can go back and evaluate what you find to be important, relevant, that connects with your audience. So even just with a thesis statement, it doesn't have to be perfect. Odds are, if you're really working on your writing, you're constantly revising it to get it to where you feel like you are making a clear connection between your evidence and your thesis statement, that there's clear evidence paragraphs, topic sentences that relate directly back to your thesis statement. And that's also why we have revisions, right? We have a rough draft, and hopefully you're even doing, another revision before you send in your final. So you'll have your rough draft. I give you feedback. You'll do 1 or 2 revisions and then turn it in, right? So that's like 2 to 3 pieces that, papers that you're writing before you submit your final. And in that time, you will revise your thesis statement, which will then revise your body paragraphs. But the more you do it, the easier it'll get, the faster you'll get. And you'll also catch yourself asking those questions that I'm already, I will be asking you at the beginning. You'll already start to do that. And so don't get caught up on how effective you are right away. Give yourself time and room to go back and look at those, creating those error-free sentences, or my subject verb agreement there. Because I can't help you figure out what you were trying to say. I can help you with your in-text citations. I can help you with your subject verb agreement. I can help you, with your wordiness, but I cannot help you remember the thought process that you had, right? So that's important to put down first. Also, we have a writing center. It's built into your tuition. So you can make appointments. You can even start making them now in advance for your projected assignments, so that you give yourself a deadline to get that to the Writing Center, and they can also help you. So I'm helping you, the Writing Center can help you. And I mean, how can you not develop into a more effective writer in the next 8 weeks? So keep that in mind. All right, so talking about if you take in 201, we kind of talked about the construction of a paragraph, right? We have, a hook, a topic sentence, thesis statement. Like if you were in 201, you just wrote 1 paragraph. So it was a topic sentence. And then you worked on creating supporting details and evidence, 1 idea to like support your topic sentence, giving another sentence to kind of connect to your reader why your evidence relates to your topic sentence. And then a concluding sentence, letting them know, like, now that you have this information, where do you want to take it next? So the construction of a paragraph is important because that still applies to your body paragraphs, right? In your body paragraphs of an essay, you are going to have topic sentences, supporting evidence, connection, explanation, and then your conclusion will most likely be transitioning a transition sentence to your next paragraph, kind of giving that gateway over. So if you haven't taken 201, there are, chapters in the text in Dr. Harp's book that kind of talks about the construction of a paragraph. It's very important because, again, that is what we're expecting for your body paragraphs. So you want to have, a topic sentence that, connects back to your thesis, supporting evidence, one piece of supporting evidence. Because a lot of times if you keep listing, then you're not really breaking down why your evidence relates to the topic sentence that relates back to the thesis, right? Just as I say that, you're like, ooh, I got to explain all that. Well, yeah, you do. So giving yourself room to do that means that you really need to only have one supporting evidence per topic sentence to really develop that explanation for your audience, because you have it in your brain, the process, but you need to be able to relate that to your audience and break down that process on how your evidence connects to the topic sentence that connects to the thesis statement, and really explain it for them, break it down. And so you have room to do that in your paragraph. And then your transition to the next paragraph. So keep that in mind because those are really important. So last piece, the construction of an essay. This is what we're going to be working on for the duration of our time in 202. So we have, our introduction, body paragraph. So again, if you haven't taken 201, go ahead and look back on what we're looking for an effective paragraph. And you can look at, check it out in the text. And then your conclusion. So those are the three things that we're going to be working on in 202. One last thing, the introduction, we're talking about the thesis statement. Your thesis statement can go anywhere in, your essay and your introduction. There's no, perfect place. A lot of people like to have it as their last sentence to kind of transition to the first body paragraph. It just has to be very obvious what your thesis statement is. If it's not obvious, then that's a problem. So you just need to place it where you think it is most clearly laid out. And you can even go ahead and just put it as your last sentence in the intro, and then as you get more comfortable in writing your papers, you can move it around if you feel like it would be more effective in a different place. So keep that in mind. Exercises. This week, I recommend doing exercises 10.1 and 11.1. It just really develops and reiterates what we've been talking about in regards to your thesis statement and in regards to building topic sentences to reflect your thesis statement. And those are very important skills to have in writing. So I recommend those two exercises this week. And I will, good luck. Let me know for week 2. Let me know how I can help. I will be getting your rough drafts back to you very shortly. And please, email, reach out, let me know how I can support you. Okay, see you next week.